I'm going to start by drawing a bone here. And of course, skeletal muscles are attached to bones because they pull on bones. So here's my skeletal muscle drawn in cross section. When we look at a skeletal muscle in cross section, we can see bundles inside of it called fascicles. So in green here, I'm drawing my fascicles. Okay. Inside of the fascicles are more bundles, and these are called muscle fibers, which are just the muscle cells. So in blue here, I'm drawing my muscle fiber. Inside the muscle fibers are more bundles, and these are called myofibrils, which are drawn in yellow here on the screen. So we have this tube within a tube within a tube plan. The skeletal muscle, the fascicles, the muscle fibers, and then the myofibrils. Okay. Now I want to talk about the connective tissue membranes associated with skeletal muscle. Outside the skeletal muscle itself, we have a connective tissue membrane called the epimysium. Around the fascicles, we have a connective tissue membrane called the perimysium. So that's the perimysium there. And then outside of the muscle fibers, we have another connective tissue membrane, and this is called the endomysium. So here is my endomysium outside of my muscle fiber. So these three mysiums, these three connective tissue membranes, are all going to merge to form a tendon, and the tendon is typically the structure that actually connects the muscle to the bone, right? So these connective tissue membranes are important. Now let's take a closer look at what's happening inside of the muscle fiber itself. So I'm going to take this muscle fiber and draw it enlarged here. So there's my fiber. That's just my muscle cell, don't forget. And now here are my myofibrils, these bundles inside of the muscle fiber. Let's take a closer look at a section of the myofibril. It turns out that myofibrils are just composed of a bunch of sarcomeres lined up end on end. So what I'm drawing right here is a sarcomere, and the sarcomere contains both thin and thick filaments. So in red, we see the thin filaments, and in green, we see the thick filaments. So these are just the myofilaments. These thin and thick filaments are the myofilaments, which are the contractible proteins of a skeletal muscle. And now we can see how those sarcomeres can line up end on end on end within that myofibril. During contraction, these sarcomeres will shorten. Okay, let's take a closer look at the proteins that are going to make up the sarcomere. So I said we have thick filament and thin filament. So right now I'm drawing out the thin filament, which is made of actin, shown in red. And those blue spots are the binding sites on the actin that will bind to myosin. In pink here, I've drawn the tropomyosin protein, and in purple, I'm drawing the troponin proteins. So we have three proteins that make up the thin filament: actin, tropomyosin, and troponin. The thick filament is made of just one protein called myosin. And myosin typically looks a little bit like a golf club, okay? And it's the job of myosin to grab on to the actin and pull during muscle contraction. So hopefully this video helped you a little bit better to understand muscle physiology.